Good evening, federal viewers. Today we have with us Major Abinay Dogra, a retired Indian Army officer, and he's an aviation expert. He's going to unpack for us key areas like the performance of China's J-10 versus India's Rafale and the unfolding drone warfare in modern air defense strategies. He's also going to give us his take on what the Dassault CEO said when he clarified that the recent Rafale crash was due to a technical failure and not because it was shot down. So here we go. So could you tell us about the combat performance of the J-10C compared to France's Rafale fighters, especially in light of what the CEO said, and what does that indicate about stealth, avionics, and dogfight capabilities?
Thank you,
Abhinay?
Chitra. Thank you, Chitra. I will elaborate on that. The the battle which took place on the intervening night of 6th and 7th of May, it was a all-encompassing battle. It was never a battle between two separate platforms, as it is being laid out in certain circles. There is a lot of rhetoric which was initially peddled, and there was a lot of marketing which was done in order to prop up the J10C. So let me first of all clarify that the battle which took place involved ground forces, air forces, and force multipliers. All of them were put into action, and it was not a direct combat. It was not a one-on-one combat. Initially, they claimed that they have downed multiple Rafales, but they retracted once they realized that they may not have downed more than one or two jets. Which jets we do not know as yet. It has not been clarified by our government. But the battle which took place in an all-encompassing scenario, which means that their force multipliers were involved, their fighter jets were involved, and there's significantly, very significantly, in a portion which has been left out a little bit, their ground forces were involved in hacking, jamming, and trying to spoof our military equipment and even our Rafale jets. I think the spoofing and the jamming and the hacking did happen. The Chinese have tried to portray. Initially, they tried to portray it as a air-to-air win, which may not have been the scenario. The word I'll use here is subterfuge. There was some level of deception, and there was a massive level of subterfuge carried out. As far as the conflict was concerned, as far as the aerial battle was concerned. The parameters given to the Indian pilots were probably there because uh, the known the known radius in which a PL-15 export version or an export missile would launch would be around 140 kilometers. And the HQ-9 systems, the air defense systems, which were also in operation on that day, would probably be around 120 kilometers as stated. But apparently the ranges were not correct. They had higher ranges on them, which means that the PL-15 missile was not the export version. And the HQ-9 system may have sported its longest range missile, which is more than 300 kilometers. So this kind of subterfuge and deception may have been carried out, due to which there was a certain misunderstanding in the mission parameters, or the terms of reference as we call it. Other than that, one-on-one combat with a Rafale and a J-10C is a non-issue. We do not need to elaborate, or we do not need to wait for the CEO of Dassault Aviation to clarify. It is an out-and-out win for the Rafale. The Rafale is a very good fighter, and I would still stick by the Rafale versus the J-10C in that case.
Do you think this has anything to do with the fact that the J-10C recently missed its planned debut at the Paris Air Show? What technical, diplomatic, or strategic factors might have contributed to its withdrawal from the air show?
Definitely tactical and strategic factors. The fair was clearly targeted in this skirmish, and there was a lot of propaganda which came out against the Rafale, and then after that, the Chinese holding uh, air show in Paris and trying to sell their G10C might have been somewhat of a misnomer. So very likely they have withdrawn due to these concerns. I'm not able to hear.
Can you tell us about the usage of drones in the May 2025 conflict? Uh, because Pakistan apparently deployed 300 to 500 drones across multiple waves to probe Indian defenses. So, how effective were these swarms, and what weaknesses did India's layered air defense reveal?
I must say the performance of the Indian air defense was outstanding. I have not seen such a performance in the other conflicts as well, whether you talk about Russia, Ukraine, we talk about Israel, Hamas, or Hezbollah, or even Iran. This kind of performance, the multi-layered defense, the key word is the multi-layered defense system and the mode of communication. The communication within our armed forces is of a very high standard. Within the circle itself, the layered concept, the MS, which is provided. There is the Akash defense system, which integrates the army, all the army nodes, and then there are the standard modes of communication with the air force and with the navy. They are of a very high standard, and the communication was the major point which enabled our air defense to function in such a layered and structured manner. That even we targeted the drones via the Bhargavastra and the D4 anti-drone system and the Akash system, and we also used our guns to great effect. The L-70 guns and the Zu-23 guns have performed admirably, even though they are decades old in the making. So what I'd say is I'm pleasantly surprised, and it is a matter of pride for me to see the air defense perform the way it has.
Right, I got that. And what about the cost factor, that one drone can cost as little as 2 to 5 lakhs, but intercepting it often requires missiles, radar systems, or jammers worth several crores. So, how do militaries reconcile this massive cost imbalance? Are we entering an era where defense becomes economically unsustainable against low-cost swarm tactics?
The keyword here, as far as low-cost swarm tactics is there, is the layered defense system. The, the reason why it is there in layers is precisely to tackle these kind of swarming tactics. And the D4 anti-drone system and the Bhargavastra is a step in the right direction. The Akash missile system also will take care of the larger drones. So as far as the cost to us in terms of swarm drones overwhelming us in terms of numbers, I don't think it is a factor right now. And we are actively looking. I'm very pleasantly surprised, and I'm very proud of the way the air defense has managed these tactics by Pakistan.
New battery, please charge. And could you tell us about the recent Iran-Israel conflict? Reports suggest that Israel's Iron Dome couldn't fully stop drone missile threats from Iran. So, what does that tell us about the evolving limits of drone defense tech?
Well, there's a saying that necessity is the mother of inventions. And I use this adage in this context. If we study the Iron Dome system, we find that it is primarily designed to stop the rockets and drones from Hamas and Hezbollah. Uh, Israel has not fought a full-fledged war since the 1973 Yom Kippur War, and it has mainly been fighting against terrorist or non-state elements of Hezbollah and Hamas. And the Iron Dome is geared up to do precisely that. It is a measure to take care of rockets and drones fired from Hamas, from the Palestinian area, and the Hezbollah, which is a very strong Iran proxy. Uh, it's as far as its layered defense system is concerned, I think it is still coming up. I had mentioned that communication was a forte. Communication may be a part that Israel is still improving, and they had the third missile system coming in. That is, the US personnel are manning the third defense system, and they have their own set of communications. The Israelis have their own set of communications. So this sort of communication structure for longer range missiles is still working, still in the works, and it is still actually improving. It is the point where we have actually scored over even the Israelis, where we have acquired some of this anti-drone and anti-missile technology.
Okay. So, as a closing last question, I want to ask you about AI capabilities. There have been reports that there are AI-enabled drones that adapt mid-flight, like jamming radars and launching cyber EW attacks. So, that you'd say is untrue.
Definitely, it's AI is even our MS even our MS is the software which we use is AI enabled, and it enables us
Okay.
to track and destroy targets.
Okay. So, how prepared is India in terms of AI and secure communication?
Okay. Hello. Sorry, I lost form. Mic is muted.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and it was great talking to you. Here with us was Abinay, and let's see how Rafael continues to perform against the J10 in maybe upcoming escalations if we don't have any. Thank you.